Well, Dmitry Babich joins me now live from Moscow. He's a political analyst at Sputnik International News Agency. Dmitry, thanks so much for joining us. I think it's fair to say that the Kremlin believed it had a friend in Trump, especially as regards its Syria policy. So how does this airstrike change that, and what exactly will be the consequences?
Well, I wouldn't say that Russia was so infatuated with Trump. That was rather the way the Western media wanted to see it. There were some hopes that Trump's foreign policy would be different from Obama's. And if you look at some of the tweets that Mr. Trump made in 2013, warning Obama against striking at the government forces in Syria, then you will see that it was not Russia that changed its position. It was Mr. Trump who changed his position. You know, at the time, Trump wrote on Twitter, let me quote it in full, "To our foolish leader, don't attack Syria. If you do, many very bad things will happen," end of quote.
But we still are where we are. So where does this leave Russia? What consequences will we see now in the Russia-U.S. relationship?
I think a lot will depend on the scope of the strikes. Of course, the first strike is a very bad precedent, but it is also, I think, a very foolish thing to do if we use the same language that Trump used in 2000, because 59 Tomahawk missiles will not change the situation on the ground. Let me remind you that before the Russian planes arrived in Syria in September 2015, for 11 months, the United States and their allies had been bombing the so-called ISIS, the so-called Islamic State, for 11 months, and the ISIS kept expanding. So that tells you that a few dozen missiles, a few dozen bombs, they don't change the situation on the ground dramatically. So everything will depend on the scope of the American involvement. Everything will depend on the explanations that the Russian state will get from the US Secretary of State Tillerson when he comes to Moscow in a few days. I think right now Russia is not going to make any dramatic moves. We're not going to panic. But Mr. Putin has stated his position very clearly that it was a breach of Syrian sovereignty. And if you look at the situation, Russia and Syria are the only forces that are acting in this area legitimately. Russia is there on an invitation from the Syrian government. The United States and their allies are acting, illegitimately.
Okay. Dmitry Babich, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much for that.